the thing for me was that I survived breast cancer, right? If they want people to get vaccinated, they should send nurses and doctors, not ADFs. Or concrete floor with thousands of other people when we first got there, because nobody campaigned. No one campaigned in that seat. No one bothered to go out and say, I'm going to make a difference. Nations Federation. The camp we live in, refugee camps in Hong Kong. I think we were safe for about 5 days or something like that. I did not know that I was running away from the communists. I only learned about that years on when I was studying about it at school. But that back then, I had no idea.
Dai, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Luca. Thanks for having me here. It's great to be in your, little studio.
Little slice of heaven.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, happy Freedom Day.
Yes, I know. Interestingly, I've been using this hashtag Freedom Day, but I feel I've also shared that I feel a bit uncomfortable using the word Freedom Day because you're living in Australia in a Western society, and I think this country in the West should be a free country, right?
Absolutely.
So to have the word the hashtag Freedom Day was kind of uncomfortable, but in considering that we have been in lockdown for the last 3 to 4 months since beginning of July, it feels like we are getting out of something. So therefore, it's kind of appropriate, but it's kind of very awkward to use the word Freedom Day.
There's something about the concept of like getting your freedoms back, which just doesn't sit right with a lot of people. I think a lot of people share that kind of sentiment.
Yeah. What about young people? I want how do they think about the word Freedom Day? What do they think about coming out of lockdown? Is my I'd like to know. What's your perspective?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, anyone from 18 to 25 doesn't like being told what to do as it is. We all think we've got it figured out and we know what to do.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting watching kind of how the culture shifted and reacted to a concept like lockdown, which is something we've never experienced before.
No. When it first started, I was very vocal in terms of, in particular, in our the Fairfield local government area where I represent. It was the first council to have had the harsh measures implemented, right? And so the mayor and myself, the Frank Carboni and myself, I think the two most vocal individuals who stood up for our community and saying, why were we being identified or labelled as areas of concern, and we were labelled as it was the way that we were treated. I felt it was as if we started the whole thing when we did not, right? When the case started from Bondi, the driver spread it to a family, in Hoxton Park, and it got spread across. That's not to say that the driver knew or had, did it intentionally. I think at the end of the day, where the buck stopped would have been with the federal government in terms of the quarantining, the failure of the quarantining from the start, the early lockdown that was not implemented, and hotel quarantining failed us too because
on a colossal scale,
greatly because hotels were not meant to be used as a quarantining facility. It's a hotel.
Exactly.
So therefore, there are lots of things that I think the government, both state and federal, failed us. That said, though, I also understand that for the government, the leaders of the day, they have no experience in dealing with such a crisis. Australia, in New South Wales and Australia overall have not been through crisis, been through wars, been through those kind of challenges where a government would need to step up and find a solution, right, to the problem. So Australia has been a very lucky country. So the word lucky is a very correct terminology because we are very, we kind of navigate through life and we don't get impacted by world crisis until this whole COVID pandemic.
Of course. And I think, if you said to anyone in Parliament 5 years ago, hey, we're going to increase our funding for something like a pandemic, they would have just rolled their eyes and laughed at the idea. Like, come on, what are we planning for here? We have budgets to meet. We have schools to build, roads to fix. Like, why are we planning for the worst case scenario?
I know. That's right. There's been no, I think that, when government were asked for infrastructure, building of infrastructure, for instance, for hospitals, and they said, there's no money in the budget. There's no money in the budget. Yeah. The constant reply is no money in the budget. But I think in the last 2 years, COVID forced government of all levels to really find the budget to address the issues that we all, have to live with. And it's something that I have said over and over, that COVID is something that we all have to live with.
Absolutely.
You can't eliminate it. Mm-hmm. You have to learn to navigate and live with it and walk through the whole COVID minefield.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in the last 2 years. The stance I've always kind of taken on it is that, given the first couple of months of lockdown, we didn't really know what to expect. We didn't know what was going on. It was scary. It was genuinely scary. Like, we thought it was going to be the end of the world and the apocalypse. And, of course, extreme measures had to be made in those circumstances. But I think as time's kind of progressed and we've become wiser and we've understood the statistics more, and solutions have been offered, like, obviously the COVID vaccine. And I heard recently there's a new pill.
Yeah, so there's going to be, there's a new medication, a pill that I believe is being going to be rolled out for people to take it as you would when you have a flu.
Yes.
I, touch wood, have never had a flu in my life.
Really?
Yes, never had a flu in my life.
What is the secret?
I never had a flu. I've never had a flu vaccination either.
Right.
So for me, having to get the COVID vaccination was something that was really challenging, because I've never taken a flu vaccination.
It would have been very confronting.
So I, like many people who were very scared with and not having a full understanding about the vaccination, the vaccine, and COVID, I was very hesitant. But I knew that the thing for me was that I survived breast cancer. So I've had chemo. So I thought to myself, if I've had chemotherapy where I've lost all my hair, I've lost my strength and everything, if chemo didn't kill me, then I thought, well, I have no doubt that the vaccination will not kill me either.
Yeah.
So that was my, the way that I reconcile in my mind that it's okay to have the vaccine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is such a personal decision.
It is.
It's such a personal decision, like, obviously you've had to fall back on some past experiences that I do want to come back to later on.
Yeah.
But just to kind of keep this train of thought going, that, you've had to reconcile that with that in your own way.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a process everyone's going to have to go through in their own time. Fortunately, we are seeing that, people are generally very accepting of the vaccine.
Yeah. So we almost, I think, in our, our region, I can talk only about my council area, Fairfield City Council. I think we're almost nearly, I think 90% first dose.
Right.
So, and we're about 75 to 76% fully vaccinated. So in their 70s, which is really great.
Yeah. And those statistics don't line up with the problematic branding that Fairfield has been given, does it?
Absolutely not. And that's the whole thing with the way that the media, the way that the government took and targeted Fairfield from the start in July. And I think I really struggled because, in my comments on the many media platforms that I was asked to comment, I said that if the government really felt that there was an issue in our community, they should have educated the community much, much earlier than July about getting tested, much earlier than July about getting vaccinated. And they should have provided the resources that we need, such as providing more testing clinics, providing more vaccines, for instance.
The testing clinics one was a big one for me. It was, Fairfield Showground, for anyone that watches that isn't local, is like kind of one of the central hubs of Fairfield. To try and get a test there, you'd wait 4 hours easily.
Oh, absolutely. The day that the government announced at 11 o'clock that people had to get tested every 3 days to go to work outside of the LGA. By about lunchtime, by the time I drove past the showground, the traffic congestion was amazing. It was banked up like cars were queuing to get in. And I thought, oh my gosh, if the government was going to make an announcement that morning about getting people to get tested every 3 days, they should have made sure that there were more clinics opened up.
Or just a heads up.
Exactly. There were, so it was just like chaotic. I just thought, oh my God, this is like they were making decisions on the run in the morning at 11 o'clock. And then, of course, people watching, listening, they start to go out and they start to panic. And it's not people's fault because people there go to work. So they need to ensure that they actually go, they get them. And I said, it was evident that people were doing the right thing because as soon as they were told that they had to get tested, they went out to get tested. Right? So it showed that our community was listening to what was required of them. So, yeah. Yeah,
and there tends to be this notion that Fairfield is very rebellious or very kind of plays by their own rules. But I think when push comes to shove and you do see circumstances like that come up, the vast majority of people are just working class. They want to provide for their families. They want to, open up their businesses.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's never once been a sentiment that we need to overthrow the government or that we need to, start a rebellion. It's just like, okay, how do we get to tomorrow?
Absolutely. And you, as you pointed out, the community there is a working class, lower socioeconomic community. And a lot of mums and dads have to run their own business, drop their kids off with their grandparents and the next council and then go to open their business in the next council. So they have to try and manage all of that, and then in addition, they have to also ensure that they comply with the government's requirements. And it was a very harsh time, even though it's short, but it was very harsh. We had helicopters hovering around our homes. It's just that was weird. And I have made this point in the media, is that a lot of our community, about 30 to 40% of our community, are families who've escaped war-torn and authoritative regimes. So the conditions that they were under during this period, I think it brought back a lot of memories about the wars, back in Iraq, back in, other countries where they've escaped from, in my case, from Vietnam. So, what the government or what the advisors of the government asked the government to do and the government implemented, they had no connection to the needs and to the cultural needs of the Fairfield city community. But that's all in the past now.
It's all in the past, right? It's Freedom Day.
It's Freedom Day. I live by the rule that let's not dwell in the past.
It's very stoic of you.
It's learning from the past, definitely, and I hope that the government learned a lot in the last about what they've done in the last 3 months, and not to repeat again. I hope not.
The confronting situation is that, particularly in Melbourne, I think we're all kind of looking at Melbourne like, what's going to happen down there?
I know.
Right? Like, things are boiling over there. I think I read a statistic the other day that they've had the most consecutive days in lockdown in the world.
Yes, I read that too. And I thought, I spoke to some friends in Melbourne and I said, I hear that you guys, in Melbourne, you've beat beaten us in terms of the number of days of lockdown. I thought Sydney was New South Wales.
We had it.
I thought we won the game, but no, you guys have beaten us.
That's one crown I'm happy to pass over.
Right. And she said, yes, apparently we are, I think, the top of the world in terms of the numbers. And I'm thinking, why would you even want to have that race as the most lockdown city in the world, really?
Yeah, no. I don't think the Melbourneites are fighting to keep lockdowns around. I just think it's a situation again where state government unfortunately has, in my opinion, has overstepped. I think there's been a lot of boundaries that the vast majority of the Australian public have been overstepped and overturned. Like you said before, things like helicopters flying over at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. There's no need for that. Where the buck really drew for me, and where I really started to kind of push back was curfews.
I know.
Curfews, in my personal opinion, have no scientific basis as to keeping a community healthy.
Yeah.
I don't think it benefits society in any measure.
Yep.
These are what war-stricken countries that, have internal conflicts between states do.
Yes.
Impose curfews. It's completely totalitarian and unreasonable.
Oh, look, I couldn't agree more. I think that when they hit the curfew and then having the police presence, the ADF's announcement, I just felt that was really over the top. And I have said over and over that there is no other incentive other than the incentive to keep your family safe.
Yep.
And your loved ones safe. That's the greatest personal incentive anybody can have. So you don't need the curfew as an incentive for people to stay home and lock in, because for me, even before the curfew was announced, our city was dead. Mm-hmm. There were no cars on the road.
Yeah, no.
Businesses had closed down. So I did not know what was the reason behind the curfew.
Yeah.
But look, you will never know the reasons behind a lot of politicians making those decisions.
That was going to be my follow-up question for you, because you've got a lot more experience in the political sphere.
A little bit limited. Maybe more than those who are not involved.
You've definitely had quite the political career. There's no doubt about that. But because you kind of understand maybe more the mechanisms that are at play, when something like curfew does get brought to, obviously, in this case, Gladys's desk, how is that decision made? Like, is everyone every representative in agreement? In the state consulted upon that? Like, is there a vote? How does that work?
Look, I would hazard a guess, because obviously I'm not in the party room, as they call the party room, or the cabinet meeting. Yep. But there'll be a handful of members of parliament in the cabinet meeting, because there's only certain numbers in cabinet, and including obviously Department of Health and the Chief Health Officer and her executives, Dr. Kerry Chant. So there would have been a very close-knit group of people that would have made that decision. Mm-hmm. I know for sure that a lot of the senior bureaucrats who had to implement this outside of the Department of Health, or a small circle of health, did not even know of all the changes that the government were announcing on a daily basis.
So we've got this small select group of people making decisions that impacts the entire state.
Yep.
Based upon their own...
Yeah, their own assessment of the health of the state. And so there was a lot of... And I think it's a complicated system. And I think until you actually get into that system, you will not understand how it gets navigated or manipulated. I would like to say navigated rather than manipulated. And so I think that, but for sure, it's only a small handful of people in there that is making the decisions. And so for me, it has always been about, and that's why I'm very passionate around diversity and inclusion in the leadership space. Because if you look at that leadership level, there would not have been any diversity of perspectives, diversity of lived experiences, diversity of cultural even backgrounds.
Yeah.
In that leadership, at that leadership level, which means that all of them would have probably have had the same upbringing, the same thinking, the same education, the same network. So when they make the decisions, it's so detached from the reality.
Absolutely.
Of life.
Yeah.
So I think that, but it's very hard to change that leadership ingredients or composition, because many of people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds aren't playing that game.
Yeah.
They're not at that level. So it's going to be a while, I think, before we get to that level where we see a more diverse decision making, more diversity at the decision making table, so that you can bring perspective. So, for instance, when it came to the announcement that ADF will be sent out to ensure that the community in Fairfield comply, for instance. Now, if you had any person at that leadership table who came from a war-torn background, who had lived in Cambodia or in Iraq or in Sudan, somebody who's experienced war, they would have said, hang on, that community, if you send the ADFs, you would trigger fear in that community because they have experienced that in their country where they had authoritative regime. Let's look at another way. How do we craft that message that we're going to send in personnels to help people stay at home, to help people get vaccinated, right? If they want people to get vaccinated, they should send nurses and doctors, not ADFs. That's, I believe, would have been a more wiser decision.
Just optically. Optically, right?
Absolutely, optically too, right? Even if it's not optically, even if they want to use optically, even if it's logically, well, hang on. Who delivers vaccine? Who keeps communities safe health-wise? It's nurses and doctors, not ADFs.
Exactly. And I mean, it gained international attention that the ADF was being sent into local communities.
Yeah.
And this isn't just some kind of news cycle. No, this genuinely happened in Cecil Hills.
Yeah.
We had ADF officers patrolling.
Oh my god.
Patrolling. You'd honestly think that we were in war.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, absolutely, completely. And so for me, if they had two or three, you can't have one voice at that decision-making table, because if you one voice, you'll be drowned out by the others who don't see your perspective. At least 2 to 3 voices who have come from that backgrounds, who had those lived experiences, and actually can say, hang on, is that the right way to go down, right? But obviously they had nobody of that level of seniority, so hence the decisions they made is how it turned out to be,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think everything you've said right there just makes logical sense, right? Do you know what I mean? There's not many things I would push back on there. It makes sense that the more diverse the ideas and the more backgrounds and orientations that you can draw from, the more holistic your answer to this problem is going to be.
Absolutely. That's right.
It's not like we don't have the resources to do that. It's not like we don't have the talent to do that. It's not like we don't have the facilities to do that. It is completely possible in Australia. We're very blessed to live in a country as rich and as prosperous as what we are.
That's right.
And so I think just to fall onto very reactionary thinking, very, do as I say or else that kind of mentality, it just doesn't seem well thought out. It doesn't seem something that a good leader would offer.
Yeah, especially, it doesn't seem like in a country like Australia, we would resort to that kind of leadership style. Right? I thought we were more mature as a country, but I said, let's not dwell on the past.
Of course.
I hope that our leaders have learned a lot.
Well, we've got a new face.
We got a new face, and I think that I believe that the new premier
Dominic
Perrottet has taken heed in terms of the extremeness of the measures that have been implemented since July. So he's pulled it back. So,
Yeah, and that is refreshing to see. I'm skeptical, but I think everyone is at this point as well.
I think everybody's skeptical of politicians, aren't they?
Which is actually why I'm so fascinated by you, is because you don't seem married to one kind of ideology or one kind of fixture. You're very rational and logical.
Yeah.
You're the first politician I've spoken to in this kind of nature. And I guess I kind of came in with the presumption that it was going to be very scripted and very, just following the government guidelines. Hey, everyone, go get vaccinated. That kind of message.
Yeah.
But no, you seem to be very willing to explore different ideas.
Oh, I am. I think.
Where do you think that came from?
I think that's me. Who I am today is due to my upbringing and my background. Like many in the community, I'm a refugee. I escaped war-torn Vietnam when I was young, but I grew up here in Australia.
Was that post-Vietnam War?
Yeah, that's right. So I grew up here, and the one thing that I told myself growing up here was that I need to learn to speak English well.
Yeah.
As most children of refugees and migrants do, they adapt to this new society, and they believe that to do well, you need to adapt. You need to just. I use the word integrate. I know a lot of people don't like the word integration, but I don't mind.
Don't?
Yes, out there, they just think that why should I integrate? I'm this. I'm X. I shouldn't be integrating into Y. I should maintain my X.
People are really saying that?
Oh yeah.
Really?
They are, yeah. So there's certain groups that they don't like the word integration, but anyway, I don't mind the word. I have integrated.
Yeah.
And embrace Australia as my second homeland. And so I think, and I think being a journalist as well has helped me. Maybe it hasn't helped many other journalists, but it certainly has helped me open my eyes to the world. And I've always been I'm always curious about people. I'm always curious about cultures and people and learning. I just want to learn about cultures. I want to learn about people, how they live, how did they get to be where they are today? What brought them to where they are today? And that's because that was the journey that I made. So I think that I see myself first and foremost as an activist, as an advocate for people like me, people who've had to rebuild their lives, people who've had to integrate into a new society, a new country, and I love that we are all different. That's what I love about Australia, and I think where leaders have failed is that they use those differences as a divide rather than seeing those differences as something that's unique to Australia and how we can use those differences to bring people together. I've got this utopian idea that we are the United Nation of the world. I've always maintained that.
Australia
is the United Nation. We don't need a United Nation. We are the United Nation. And if we are the United Nation, then we should be able to tap into the diverse talent that we have in order for us to take the lead in world peace. We are so capable of doing that, but we're not.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's about, and because I've created that, I don't know when I created that I saw Australia as the United Nation.
Well, I think from your perspective, as you said before, you came from a refugee from Vietnam. During a very tricky time. Was the camp actually in Vietnam? Or was
No, see the camp, we live in refugee camps in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So yeah.
Why Hong Kong?
So a lot of refugees escaped Vietnam, and then they had to go what was termed as the first port of asylum. Back in those days, right, in Southeast Asia. So there were five countries that became the first port of asylum. It's like Manus Island now, or Christmas Island, as the processing center.
Yeah.
That's why I have no issue with the processing center, because we were processed. So a lot of the refugees from Vietnam, when they escaped Vietnam, they landed the first, they either landed in Indonesia, they landed in Malaysia,
And
Thailand.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but just out of curiosity, how did you leave?
On a boat.
On a boat.
Yes, on a
That
leaky
would have
boat.
been terrifying.
Yeah.
How old were you?
Oh, I was about 11.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you remember everything.
Of course.
Right? So you remember everything. So once you get off, and then you're at sea. Have you seen The World of Pi?
Life of Pi.
The Life of Pi.
Yeah,
have you seen it?
Yeah.
That's exactly how it was. It wasn't that
Who
big.
are you with?
With my mom and my younger sisters, but with other people there on the boat as well.
God.
And so the boat gets once the boat is out there in the middle of the ocean, you're in God's hands. Like you're in the hands of Mother Nature. It's beyond your control. So if there's a storm, if you're lucky and you survive, then you survive. If you're not, then so we were very lucky to survive. So when I saw
so when I
saw the Life of Pi, I thought, oh my God, I remember that boat journey. I didn't have a tiger with me, but there's no tiger in the boat. There are other people. They were almost like tigers. I think the tiger would have been
Sleep
better.
with one eye open.
yeah, that's right. But so. Yeah, and so that storm, like my God, that was really it brought back a lot of memories of the boat trip. But so going back to the 5 countries of asylum, it's Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and the Philippines.
Right.
It's closest to Vietnam, so a lot of Vietnamese refugees, when they get on a boat and somehow they get navigated towards these countries. And back then, the international, the government of the world sort of gathered together and said, look, we need to address this issue of the Vietnamese refugees. Yeah. And so the United Nations then put in place the map to process a lot of these Vietnamese refugees, including my families. And so they get processed and then they get accepted by America, Australia, France, Canada, I think some European countries. So that's how, a lot of refugees got resettled into the West. It's through that settlement in the processing centers in Southeast Asia.
So you arrive at this refugee camp in Hong Kong.
Yeah. And then spend...
How long were you at sea for?
Oh my God, I think we were at sea for about 5 days or something like that.
That would have been terrifying.
Yeah, people have asked if it has been terrifying. I think for a young child, I think children don't know fear.
Right.
If you think about it, when you're 10 or 11, you take risk. I did. I used to climb trees and I used to fall down. It wasn't that scary. The world wasn't scary. I don't think so.
Maybe you just didn't understand the gravity of the situation.
No, you didn't. Exactly. Right. You had no understanding of that. I think kids nowadays might have a bit more living in fear because the parents are more protective.
Yep.
Whereas back in those days, no, there was, kids can go out and play in the street and it'll be fine. If they come home late, it's okay. The society was different then to what it is today.
And I think it's a cultural thing as well, especially in Australia. I'm of South American origin, right? Yeah. And kids over there are still very free to kind of just do what they want.
Yeah, that's right.
Like they just go to the park with 20 strangers and play football together. And
exactly.
That's what it is. If you try to do that here, it's like, who's there? Where are you going? How long are you staying for?
That's
Keep your phone on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so for me, it wasn't like I knew it wasn't, I didn't even know what was going on anyway.
Yeah.
I knew it was on a boat. Didn't know where I was on a boat. Ended up in a camp, didn't know where this was. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Had no idea.
So what was your experience in Hong Kong like then?
I just knew that I was not in my place. Mm-hmm. I just knew that it wasn't a home. I just knew that I'm living with thousands of other strangers. I think I knew the word refugee, that we were refugees, but I don't know if it had any kind of it didn't like make me think, oh, poor me, I'm a refugee. Like it's just, you just knew the term was that you were seeking refuge. I did not know what I was seeking refuge from. I did not know that I was running away from the communists. I only learned about that years on when I was studying about it at school. But that back then, I had no idea. You were raised back then not to question your parents' decision.
Yeah.
Not to ask questions. You have to listen and you have to follow, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
So I think I remember months. I can't remember how many long, 6 months, 7 months, or something like that, in the camps, and then we were finally accepted to come to Australia.
And what was that 6 months like?
Well, you were sleeping in a double bunk bed, a family per double bunk bed, squashed. At one stage, we were sleeping on the floor, concrete floor, with thousands of other people when we first got there. Yeah, it's a shell of a building. You just have to find a place and just sleep on it. You were eating out of barrels, like you will be queuing up. It's like an internship. Internship, yeah, mate, internship, right? Internment, internment camps, like where it's not as bad as the German camps where they had the Jews coming up and, getting food from a bowl, but that's what we had to do.
It was the same tone.
Yeah, same, we had to come up to get our food, and there's only so much food per family. And yeah, you were imprisoned, basically. You weren't allowed out. There was a curfew. So I remember when we have a curfew to get, and I'm thinking, oh my God, can't believe I have to come back to curfew here in Australia.
Yeah.
So we had a curfew, and that if anybody goes out of the camp, they had to be back by 9 p.m. I think it was 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. So that was like, but you don't, you only are allowed out in certain camps. In some camps, you're not allowed out at all. So you were interned until you get what they call a freedom camp, is where you're allowed out. Yeah.
That's a lot to process.
Yes, I know.
At a young age.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's a lot to process for young people here. They're thinking, what do you mean in a camp? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah,
what
I guess because, we hear about detention centres and processing camps, obviously in Nauru and in the past Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
And it just feels very distant.
Yeah.
It's very easy to kind of criticise and judge for a lot of people kind of on the outside looking in. Because, it's just like, oh, these people have nothing to do with me, and it's a shame because it's not a human condition. It's not a natural thing to do. I think a lot of the times we kind of result to tribalism and drawing lines in the sand and saying, well, if you're not on my team, you're on the other team and you're not my problem. But, to understand that, again, those are human beings and they have just as valid experiences and just as valid emotions as you do. It's such an important takeaway for so many people.
Yeah.
It's just amazing that you've been able to come from such harsh conditions and then really flourish and, not only immigrate into Australia successfully, but then to go on and to have a successful career, a successful personal life, and still have such a positive outlook on the world. Yeah,
I remember I did a course once, and I learned that there's a term, I don't know, maybe one day, it's a self-development thing, where they identified that the strong suit that I wear, right? So we all have a strong suit, or we wear lenses. Yeah, certain lenses color us, and we wear those lenses. Some of us have multiple lenses, so therefore when we talk through these multiple lenses, and we can't actually see. But the lens that I wear and the suit that I constantly wear is called optimism.
Right.
So everything that I look out in life, I see through those prism. And so even my colleagues in politics will say to me, you're always so positive. Wait till you get back. Like you're always, why are you so, like you don't even see, you're so naive. I thought, well, naive, or do I choose to see a positive side of life?
Yeah.
And I encourage people. It is hard. I mean, I have lived through hardship, so it's not as if I'm talking that, you know, to look through positive lenses from a positive life. I've had a hard life. So I know what it's like living through hardships, but I think that we shouldn't let our circumstances dictate us and shape us and identify us. It's about how do we use those circumstances and how do we use those experiences to really give us a platform to stand on. That's always how I look at life. Don't ask me why, but that's always how I look. So I've got this supposedly strong suit called optimism and positive. Some people might have a strong suit about being a victim. So everything that they look at life is through that victim lens, right? And some might have a strong suit around fear or suspicion. So everything that they do in life is about being suspicious of people.
Yeah.
Whereas my strong suit happened to be optimism. So
yeah.
You know.
Do you think you made a conscious decision to be optimistic, or do you think it's just innate in who you are?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, actually. I think perhaps it's part of me, but also perhaps because it's a decision that I made. But I did not even label it as positive or optimistic.
Yeah.
I look at it like whatever is difficult, either I fail when I try it, but I know that it's not going to be the end of me.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I think cancer probably can't change all of that for me 6 years ago. Before that, I'm positive, but I still was concerned about, how will people think? How will people react to what I say? And I have to be careful, all that stuff. After cancer, you realize that I knew I had one life, but cancer really reinforced the fact that you actually have one life.
Yeah. I
know being a Catholic, you know, you're supposed to rise up and join God, but sometimes I think, I don't know. Yes, you know, I'm sure if you do good, you'll join God, and if you do bad, you go to hell. Nevertheless, I think that you have to make sure that you live life and make the most of life, because this is life.
Yeah. One
life you have. So I just, you know, as you get older, you just refine your thoughts more. And the more you refine your thoughts, it's become a stronger suit. Mine is a metal suit of positive. The iron woman, the positive woman.
I love it.
The iron woman of positiveness.
No, that's awesome. You know, one of the things I've always advocated for is, you know, personal fitness and personal health. I find it so crucial just in myself personally, you know, so I find that the way I interface with the world, or the lens I look through it, is very much so enhanced after I work out or after I exercise or eat good food, you know, because it just, I don't know, it just invigorates you, gives you more energy, more life. And so I think there's definitely actionable things that people can do to just have a healthier relationship with the world. But at the end of the day, like you said, it did come down to a decision. You were confronted with being a refugee in Vietnam, and you chose to take the optimistic route. You were confronted with breast cancer, and you chose to take the optimistic route. You know, you were confronted with, I'm sure, a lot of backstabbing.
Absolutely.
Lots. Politics. Why don't you talk a little bit about your experience with breast cancer? Because it's obviously shaped you as a human being.
So like you, I was a health fanatic. I used to exercise when I was working at the ABC. There was a gym across from where I used to work. So I'll probably be at the gym every lunchtime, at least at minimum 4 times a week, right? I was so into fitness. I don't smoke. I don't drink naturally, because whenever I have alcohol, I get a bit I get sleepy, so it takes the joy out of conversation for me, so I don't drink. I'm trying to learn how to drink a bit more now. I know when I go out with friends, they'll have it. I said, I'll have a sip, and I thought, let's just sip a little bit, just to get my immunity up, right, to alcohol. So I don't drink. I didn't smoke. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I exercise a lot. And yet one night, it was through yoga. I was doing yoga at home, and there was this little voice inside my head saying, check your breasts, so I put my
Really?
hand, just a little voice out of nowhere. I'm thinking, okay, I'll check, and I check. And that night, I discovered a lump on the left side of my breast, and I thought, oh shit, that's a strange lump. But I thought, you know what? Being a positive person,
Of course.
didn't worry about it, did not think much about it.
Everything will be fine.
Everything will be fine. But what I did was in the next morning when I woke up, I was very proactive. I went to see my doctor. I said, listen, I think I've got a lump in my breast. They goes, oh my God, we'll see you straight away. So they saw me straight away. Went and got myself the biopsy straight away. And the results came back about 48 hours later. Said that I had breast cancer. So the doctor called me. She goes, have to come into the surgery. I need to see you. Came in and she said, she actually broke down. She goes, I'm so sorry, but you got breast cancer. And I thought, oh my God. I think that moment was a very, when I heard that I had cancer, carcinogenic, something like that. It was a long terminology that she used. I sat down and there was silence in the room, and I thought, well, I either have I said, how long do I have? 12 months? She said, well, I think it's first stage. I think that in this day and age, 80% of breast cancer patients survive. Yours is more aggressive, but I think because we caught it early, we will get through this. I said, okay, well, we have to get through it. I said, we have to get through it, So we so after that was October 14, 2014. And by about the 8th of November, I was in hospital, had the operation. And by the 8th of December, I had my first chemo. So it was very, within 2 months of the discovery, it moved. So it had to move quickly because it was an aggressive cancer. Of
course.
And I had treatment, chemo. So the 8th of December, just before Christmas of 2014, my hair all fell out. I had a bald head. So I had still Christmas dinner, still very energetic. Subsequently, because every 21 days you have to have chemo. So I had that done over the next 3 to 4 months.
And I've heard that chemo is exhausting.
Oh, it is. It is. It was very, but I think because I was a fit person initially, it helped. Actually, it helped me, recover very quickly through it. So I'm in remission now. Which is really great news. Although I obviously, once your body goes through chemo, which is chemical, horrendous poison into your body, as well as radiation, your body changes. But I've gone back with COVID, I went back to exercise. Well, I've been exercising, but I think with COVID in particular, because we're all stuck at home, I've gone on to online exercising a lot more, doing a lot of online, fitness. I take care of my body more. I'm more aware of what needs, I take vitamins, magnesium, I take,
one of the most confronting things about being put in a situation like that is you really kind of came to terms with the fragility
of life,
of your own life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It would have been very confronting for anyone. Do you know what I mean? Did you have community or friendship groups? I mean, I assume family as well to kind of help see you through something so...
Well, the funny thing was that I then became a strong voice for Western Sydney, Greater Western Sydney, for Cancer Council, New South Wales, because they did not have any person of colour and women of colour who was able to articulate the importance of getting your breast checked, telling women to get their breast checked, because up until probably me being vocal, a lot of the times when it comes to talking about cancer, it's predominantly white Anglo women. There aren't any women of colour.
Why do you think that is?
Because for women of culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, it's a taboo subject to talk about.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, it does make sense.
They don't talk, women don't talk about the fact that they've got breast cancer. So when I discovered I had breast cancer, I can't remember who reached out. I don't know how they found out, but somebody within the New South Wales Cancer Council, because I was obviously a very public person, reached out and said, listen, we heard you've got cancer. It's probably not the right time, but would you mind sharing your story so that we can actually encourage more women of culturally and linguistically diverse background to talk about it or actually go and get tested.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, sure. So then that was in 2015. I became an ambassador for New South Wales Cancer Council for Greater Western Sydney and have been ever since. Whenever they do anything about cancer, I'll come out and support them.
Like
and
Relay for Life.
Relay for Life.
That.
They always ask me to. And I have even done the tango for them to raise funds for them.
Oh, really?
Yes, I have. So
I'm sure there's a clip of that somewhere.
There is a clip of that, and I won the judge's choice. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing. So I've always wanted to do the tango, and then when Relay for Life picked the dance that I was to dance, it was the tango. I thought, oh my God! But then it took me 3 months to learn some of the moves, so it was very difficult.
It is very intricate.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
One of my close friends, her name's Rosanna. Her sister, I believe, I'm going to double check this, but I believe it was her sister passed away from breast cancer as well.
Yeah.
And so she's been a very strong voice for the Relay for Life and cancer awareness and stuff like that. And I've never really understood perhaps the impact something like that has on someone until I saw it in her.
Yeah.
And all these years had passed and that was still such a dominant part of who she was as a person. Every year she was at the Relay for Life.
Wow.
She's got like a South American dance group and they all go there and do the show and they walk and they march and it's a real community.
It is.
I guess.
It is. And it until you actually, somebody who've had cancer or died from cancer, it can be very, it is very, devastating. To know that you've got cancer and you live with it and you've, even for me, I know I've had it and it's gone, but there's still that little cloud in the back to not know if will come back or not.
Of course.
Right? Even though they said, it's 99% it won't come back. What about that 1%? Right? And therefore, but then you don't dwell on those moments. That's why I'm so focused on doing things that are productive, that is meaningful, that's purposeful, rather than kind of dwell on something that, okay, why am I sitting in here for? Because I have a life here now and I might have a life in the future, but what I need to do is making sure that whatever I do now leaves an impact, leaves a legacy. So cancer defines you not as a breast cancer survivor, cancer for me and at least, but cancer defines you as somebody who actually, I believe, can get things done, and you believe in what you're doing more or you find a purpose more to live a life. So that's how, for me, cancer has really transformed me tremendously, I think, in the last 5 to 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's powerful stuff, I don't think anyone can really understand what impact that has on another human being until they live through it themselves. And touch wood that, the least amount of people possible do have to, but unfortunately it is one of the reality of the world. Just to shift gears a little bit, I want to talk to you a bit about your journalism and journalistic work. How did you get started there?
So like politics, I stumbled into journalism. I stumbled into journalism first before I stumbled into politics.
Out of high school, I assume?
Yeah, so out of high school, I was actually first year uni and I thought, what am I going to do? I just wasn't as academically gifted as my peers, some of my friends.
Come from a different country.
But some of my friends are, studying pharmacists and being, starting to be a dentist and optometrist, all of these very
these fancy words.
And you think, oh my gosh, it's just not me.
Yeah.
And I was having a coffee with this guy who was a journalist for the Liverpool Champion.
Right.
forgot his last name, but his first name I remember is Nick. And it was my sister who was working in Liverpool at the time. She was having coffee with him. She goes, Di, come and just have a coffee with us. I said, yeah, okay. Came and have a coffee. And then he happened to be a journalist with the Liverpool Champion. So as we were talking, he goes, oh, have you ever considered a career in journalism? I said, oh, no. He goes, I think you got the knack for it because you can, you asking questions and you're very curious and you've got this outgoing personality. I said, oh, really? I said, what do you need to do to become a journalist? He said, other than having the knack to talk and you have to be able to write. He goes, do you write? I said, oh, yeah, for essays, But yes. He goes,
writing on Hamlet.
yeah, essays. He goes, oh, essays. I said, oh, I think that will do. He goes, why don't I introduce you to our editor, because we're looking for a journalist, a cadet journalist.
Off the cusp like
yes,
that.
That's right. Back in the 90s. He goes, we're looking for a cadet journalist. I said, okay, I'll come and meet up with your editor, And so I went to the Liverpool Champion and met up with the editor there. Back in those days, they were still smoking inside. They were still drinking beer inside. The editor sitting there at his office.
You're living like a rock star. If you were an editor.
Walking in, like, oh my God,
it's kind of like
smoke.
It's kind of like the Anchorman. Have you watched that movie?
Yeah, exactly. Smoke, beer there. I'm thinking, oh my God,
Beer on the table with a cigar. Yeah.
And I said, oh, look, I hear that you're looking for a cadet journalist. He goes, yeah. Nick told me about you. Lovely guy. He had a mow. I remember him very well. He had a huge gut and a mow. He's since passed. May he rest in peace, John. And
rest
I said,
in peace, John.
Yeah. And he goes, I said, look, I'm interested. I brought my CV in. I mean, I had not worked at that stage. I've only worked as a waitress and here and there, but have not a proper work CV.
Of course.
At uni, so you kind of came out of high school. And he looked, he goes, oh, can you write? I said, yeah, I can write. I brought some essays. I showed him some essays, right? He flicked through, he goes, oh, that's not writing, but it looks like you can write. That's not writing, it looks like you can write. I said, okay. And he goes, oh, all right. Well, when can you start? I said, I thought to myself, oh my God, I got a job.
Yeah,
I said, I can start soon. He goes, start Monday. I said, okay, then I'll start Monday. So I think, so I started Monday, came to work, and
you must have been so nervous.
I was like, oh my God, I walked into this office, and in Liverpool, I remember the office was dark. There was a receptionist walked in. Oh, hello, how are you? Come in, and showed me around. There's sales rep, and there's two journos there. One was an not elderly, she's now elderly, but Carlotta, and one was another guy called Frank, a journalist. Oh, it looked at me, hi, and that's it. And I thought, but yeah, so I got in, and Carlotta showed me how to write diaries and all that stuff, and yeah, so that started my career in journalism.
Do you think it was like the distinguishing factor between like you writing university essays and then writing for journalism?
Oh,
considering
God.
it's such a skill.
Oh, it is. It is. With journalism, you have to get to the point very quickly.
Yes.
Right? Why, what, when, who, how. Right? So why, what, when, who, how. So you have to remember those. So that's the first thing that I got taught.
Yeah.
Essay, you kind of theorize and all of these, hypothesize and,
add color.
It's just very academic.
Yep.
Whereas journalism is about story. It's about how you get to the heart of the story as quickly as possible.
And it's interesting to see how that landscape has shifted as well. I mean, from what I imagine journalism to be in the 90s to where it is now, where our attention spans have shrunk so much.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but yeah, I think it's the 24 hours news cycle have changed the way that we tell stories. That said, though, I believe that people are still very keen on a good story.
Absolutely.
They will tune in, and hence you're doing podcasting because people are still there's a thirst for that long, what you call a long format story.
Absolutely.
It's not that 30 seconds grab of saying, whip the story. And I was in that industry. I went from the Liverpool Champion. we then set up the Fairfield Champion office, and then I went into the ABC. So in the ABC, I got thrown into the news space. It's called News and Current Affairs space.
Yeah.
In the news space, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to put a story together. And that was in my world. For me, I've always believed that you can't tell a story in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Absolutely not.
But they reckon that you can. And sure, there's a purpose for that, but you miss out on the whole substance.
What do you think the purpose is? Is it just to keep things tight for advertising?
Yes. Well, at the ABC, you don't have advertisement, but you do have, even though they don't believe in ratings, we've always had ratings. So you always have to ensure that you hook the audience in. So to hook the audience in, you have to make sure that the first 30 seconds is so grabbing so that the audience can stay on your channel and watching you. And so, so definitely journalism has changed. I don't think my style of storytelling has changed because I still am about that human connection. It's about that authentic story. It's about that genuine connection. So I still am that. I have not conformed to what's, the 30 seconds.
Yeah, what the industry kind of expects from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, as someone who consumes the majority of their news now through the internet, which I think a lot of people of my generation kind of relate to, I'll tune into the news every once in a while, and it has this mental fatigue on me. It genuinely is like that.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know what to focus on. There's too much happening. Yeah. And every story is just sensationalized and dramatized.
Absolutely.
And I've got 5 different rolling opinions coming at me at once. And it's where's the substance of the story? Where's the truth?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that kind of journalism, it serves its purpose, obviously. It has ratings and people are tuning into it. But I think it does leave this huge opening market for people that want, depth and character development. It would have been very easy for me to bring you on here today and within a minute 30 go, tell me about your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think there's going to be a lot of people that genuinely want to hear about your experiences in Vietnam and your experience with breast cancer and your experiences in the ABC or the Fairfield Champion or whatever the case. And I think there needs to be more of that.
Oh, look, and I think the internet, for all of its flaws, have given us the opportunity to access content, diverse content, not just locally but internationally. But also it has given individuals opportunities like yourself to create the podcasts or the content that you want for your audience and your listeners, right? So I think, one of the great things about internet and about social media is that it allows hopefully more good people to come out to create the relevant content for the relevant audience. We also have the mad people creating mad content as well, but that's
the QAnons of the world.
Oh yes, but that's the market, isn't it? That's what the world is like. You have those groups of people. You have
fringes. Fringes, extremists. Absolutely. It is. Unfortunately, it is a reality of the internet as well, and it's a loud reality. Do you know what I mean? You can't just rule these people out and say, it's just a small segment of the internet that's no, it's a lot of people that share these ideologies and share these beliefs, and they've found an echo chamber is what I like to refer them to. They've found an echo chamber of people that think very similarly, and so they can just bounce the same ideas off of each other. And I just think the way to counteract that is never to silence them. It's never to shut down. It's never to shut down community pages. It's never to censor people off Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. The only way to really confront bad speech is with good speech.
Exactly. That's right.
You need to provide more relevant information, things that are going to be concise and cut through to the meat of things. But if you just censor people and just shut up, you're not allowed to talk, they're just going to come back louder. Absolutely.
I agree with you. And I think that, it has to be, social media also has to play a role in a sense that, you can have different opinions, different, opposite opinions to yours being produced or being shared. But I think where I would want more kind of an oversight is around fake accounts, not fake content, but people who are
fake accounts,
creating so many identities to be somebody else that they're not. That's where the fake content could come in. There's no such thing as fake news. It depends on if you've got, one person creating 10 different personalities to have different content. That's where the fakeness comes in. So, but if you are by yourself saying something completely opposite to me, I respect that because, hey, you have an opinion, you're different to my perspective.
That's how freedom of speech works.
Absolutely. That's right.
That's how it works.
And we should encourage that, right?
Yeah.
But I think those people who are coward if they have 10 different accounts or 5-6 different accounts of different people. Like I have trolls.
Yeah.
I block trolls because I said if you don't have the courage to have your identity online and then you have the nerve to go onto my page or onto my social media and criticize me, I said, well, show your face. Don't talk to me behind some kind of random, face and random name. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is a weird one. But by the same token, I don't know if there's a viable solution in the pipelines for it yet.
Look, I think that I know that in the last few days I've read, and actually I'm going to write a post about it, is I know that the government is making some changes to social media legislations. Because obviously, as I mentioned, referring to those who are the cowards who are hiding behind a pseudonym or whatever to attack people, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. If they want to attack you, they should attack them as them, not as somebody else, right? Or as just a mask of some sort. So I think they're going to make some changes to the legislations. But also at the same time, there's discussion.
What kind of changes to legislation?
I don't know. Sure. I have to read into it.
Yep.
But one of the things that there are comments or articles written about is about social media, because those people who are trolling others are also, social media can also be damaging to young people because young women in particular, and I think to some extent young men as well, they look to social media like Instagram and TikTok and they think, oh, we want to be like that person. Yep. And therefore, if they don't look like that person or they don't sound like that person or they don't have that many likes, suddenly it becomes such a personal thing.
Of course.
It does not just happen to young people, it happens to older people that I know in politics who say, oh, look how many likes. I said, it's had nothing to do with likes. It's how much engagement you've got. I said, you can have 100 likes, but no engagement there's no engagement.
How's your retention curve looking? That's what I really want to know.
Exactly. So don't sit there and look at them, so it's not just young people, it's people who are also new to the media.
I think social media has taken something that's been in the past has been very subjective, which is social recognition, social validation, and it's been able to quantify it. And in human history, we've never seen that before.
Yeah.
So I think human beings just by nature look for community. They look for tribes. They look for parts of people to belong to. And so if they feel isolated, if they feel like they're not part of their tribe, over something as stupid as Instagram likes or comments or shares or whatever the case, if people aren't getting that sense of community or that sense of tribe, you're not going to see the best forms of human beings from that.
Yeah.
Especially in young ages, especially, between that 10 to 15-year-old age bracket where you're still figuring things out.
I know. I think it's not just 15. I think even above that, if you're trying to figure out who you are as a human being, you're trying to figure out your values, your system,
your identity.
Absolutely. So I think that sure, use social media, but social media has to be used in such a way that can benefit you, and you don't let it dictate who you should be. And so, it's a dangerous. If you don't know how to use social media, it can be very dangerous.
Of course,
a platform to be on if you're not mentally stable, if you have certain. Personal mental health issues, or you certain have a self-confidence issue, all of that. If you're on social media, oh my God, it can be the end of the end of people.
And it gets even stickier when social media becomes your work, when it becomes your source of income.
I know.
It's like,
I know.
Now how do I control this?
Exactly. And people use it as a form of income, generating income, right?
And it's a great way to make income.
It
if
is.
you can do it.
That's right.
I am hesitant though to see more government oversight on social media in particular, because I do think a lot of what social media has been good for is being able to leverage opinions and leverage perspectives that go against government ideologies.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And obviously that's going to have some, negative implications as well. But I think if the more power we give to government to control how people are thinking.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You're steering very close to 1984.
Yeah. Look, I think that government should not intervene in our lives.
Yeah.
Have very minimum intervention in
keep
our
the schools running, keep the fire brigades going,
keep the hospital going.
Yeah.
If they want to keep the army, stock up, that's fine.
Yeah.
Keep the economy going for sure.
Yeah.
I think what they would, like I said, I don't know the legislation, but I know that they just talk about. I think it comes down to the identity of people that are creating profiles on social media to comment, to contribute to discussion without actually proper identity.
Yeah. Just to play devil's advocate, one of the counter arguments to that I've heard, because I like the idea, I like the concept of your social media profile almost being like your driver's license. Like it's very deeply associated to you. There's no denying that you said this on this date at that time. Where it does become perhaps a bit stickier though is when you have cases of like whistleblowers.
Yep.
So people that need to speak out against a corporation or a government that is misusing its power. And if we are all required to have individualized identities, that's going to throw a lot of people off from speaking out.
Yeah. Again, there's a post that I'm about to write, and I'm just researching at the moment on the digital identity.
Yeah.
So the government, there's a legislation coming up on digital identity. Don't ask me because I'm reading through it.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But it's what they're trying to sell is that that you have one digital identity that you can sign into everywhere, right? So that's going to be interesting because I think, in society like, Vietnam, which is a socialist communist system, you only have one identity card that allows you, like it's in your system. So is this digital identity similar to that? I don't know. I have to read into that. But that's going to be interesting, right? Now, I use LastPass. LastPass, which is a platform whereby you have one password that you use, that you access LastPass where it collects all of your other passwords.
Right.
So if you forget all of your passwords.
Oh, that sounds like a lifesaver.
Yeah. So if you lose, password for other, because you have so many sign-ins, at least LastPass allows you to save all of your passwords for all of your other platforms, but using one major password.
Yeah.
So that's almost like a digital identity. So I think to myself, well, if I'm using LastPass, storing all of my passwords, is it an issue if I have one digital identity controlled by the government? And I thought to myself, yes, I think I do.
There's just that tag on the end, controlled by the government.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought to myself, there's nothing wrong with that. So that is something that we individually have to think about. But then that's why I'm going to share it, because on the 27th of October, it's going to be up for debate. It's the federal government. I think it's up for debate. It's a time to submit. You have till the 27th of October to make a submission if you're for or against the digital identity. And if not,
is that open to the general public?
Yes, so I'm going to share that, because if you're not aware of that, and if it gets passed, then that means everybody will be down that path of having that digital identity, right? So therefore,
and it's funny because that doesn't seem to be dominating the news cycles right now.
Because everything's COVID. Yeah. There's so many legislations that have got passed because the focus has been on COVID. Yes. Government has pushed through many.
Just digital identity legislation, what's the bill called? How can people activate to that?
I'll share it. It's called digital identity, I think, legislation.
Yeah, once we do have the links and stuff, I'm going to tag them down below. So if you do feel passionate about that movement. I mean, personally, I will be voting against that concept.
No, they're asking for submission. So that means you submit in to say whether you're for or against the bill. Yeah.
I wouldn't push anyone to vote one way or the other, but just be aware that is.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I need to do it, because I think people have to be aware of it and,
of course,
and put in a submission.
Of course.
So I'm not going to say vote one way or another, but then you have to read it to see whether you agree or not.
So
it's
I have still very early stages, but it's just there's a sticky kind of situation there. Do you know what I mean? Because then, I mean, we're already seeing it right now in society, right, where governments are very, whether there's intent behind it or not, they're very clear on dividing people.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're seeing it right now in Australia. We have a two-tier society. We have vaccinated and unvaccinated.
Yep.
Wherever your ideological opinions lie on that, that's fine. But if we kind of sign up to this new concept of digital identity and saying, all your social media or your entire internet presence is going to be banked on this one card. It's like, okay, so a certain privilege is going to be extended to people that, in this case, are vaccinated or not vaccinated, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it just takes 2 or 3 party shifts for something like that to happen.
Yeah.
Because what happens a lot of the time in politics is that you give certain powers to government, and then once the party changes, it's not like that power goes away. The next party has access to it, and the next party has access to it.
Absolutely.
So we have to be careful.
Yes.
With stuff like
very, that. Very careful. Agree.
It's I guess, and I'm guilty of this a lot, is that in the past, I haven't paid attention to politics because it hasn't been interesting.
I know. A lot of people don't pay attention.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, it does get overwhelming. There's all these new characters coming into play.
Yeah.
What do you think about this Dominic guy? What did you think about Gladys and ScoMo and this and that and the other? And there's just so many moving parts shifting all the time that it's almost a full-time job just to follow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is important to, stay immersed in that space and see what kind of things are being passed on.
For sure.
Yeah. So how did you go from journalism to politics then?
I stumbled into politics as well.
Just like you stumbled into
just like I stumbled to journalism. It was in 2000, mindful of the time. It was 2008. And I just thought, what do I do? I had spent about 18 years or so in journalism, and I thought I wanted a change. And it happened to be that in September 2008, I had just come back from Malaysia because I was doing a story for Foreign Correspondent, and come back here.
Oh wow! So you went international with journalism?
Yeah, I did special reports every now and then for the ABC, and I get to travel.
That would have been really cool.
Yeah, it was, but it's not as much as I would like. Right. It was. I mean, I travel a lot nationally in the country, but to get a job as a foreign correspondent is like to become the Prime Minister of Australia at the ABC. It's everybody, like the carrot that everybody wants to. So
how did you make that jump from being...
I got into the ABC and work as a journalist there, and then when Foreign Correspondent or Four Corners have a special story that's got to do with ethnic, I was the only ethnic there, so they call me up.
Made sense.
Yeah, so they'll call me out and we'll do something relevant to my background. So I then had come back and I was in Cabramatta, and the member for Parliament had resigned, and then my partner said to me, "You know what? I think you'd be good to represent this community." I said, "Me, a journalist? I don't think so." He goes, "I think you should." So I said, "Okay." So, so within about a couple of days, I kind of decided, let's give politics a go, and I contacted the Liberal Party,
Right.
because Cabramatta was a safe Labor seat. Now, this is something that many people don't understand. When you go voting and you vote for a member of parliament or vote for a party, and you think, I'm going to vote for that person over and over because it's good, because I want them to represent me, is that when an area is very safe Labor or safe Liberal, what that means is that elected member of parliament know that they'll be voted in anyway.
Right.
So that means they don't have to do anything. That means they don't have to campaign to get voted because people will vote for them. So, and Cabramatta was the second safest Labor seat in the country.
It didn't really matter who sat there. If you represented Labor,
you'll get voted in.
You'll get voted in.
Right, you get voted in. So that's just politics, right?
Yep.
It doesn't matter who. They used to say you can put a donkey there and people will vote for Labor, right? Now,
is that just exclusively Cabramatta?
No, safe Labor seats anywhere.
Right.
You can put a donkey in any safe Labor seats. They used to say that, and they'll get voted in.
Yeah.
And that has been the case for many decades, even for safe Liberal seats, right? So then, and the reason what I've uncovered was that it's safe because the Liberal will not campaign in a safe Labor seat, and Labor will not campaign in a safe Liberal seat.
Right.
Because they think, well, if it's so safe, if we campaign, what's the point? We're not going to get elected. We're not going to get any votes, right? So they're not going to they're not going to bother campaigning. So the people that lose out when there's no competition are the community.
Of course.
It's the community, right? But the community, because they're living in this shell, in this kind of silo, they don't realize that they're actually missing out on a lot of things by voting for that one party over and over.
Can I just ask you a question on that? Why do you think Cabramatta in particular became such a safe Labor seat?
Because nobody campaigned. No one campaigned in that seat. No one bothered to go out and say, I'm going to make a difference. No one. And it's not just Cabramatta. Liverpool is the same.
Yeah.
Liverpool
But don't you think after like one generation of that, the next generation?
No, because nobody campaigned. So if you give you an analogy, have you heard of the frog that's sitting in the frying pan?
No.
Okay. So there's this analogy that if you put a frog in a frying pan, you add the water and you boil the water, it sits there long enough and it boils to death and doesn't even know that's being boiled to death because it's so used to the heat slowly, right? So people are not aware that they actually had other options because nobody came knocking on the door and said, listen, did you know that you've got an option?
We can do better.
You can do better than this. And so in 2008, I thought, well, it has been such a safe Labor seat. Why hasn't the Liberal Party campaigned out here? The Liberal Party hasn't campaigned because they knew they're not going to win the seat. So I said, well, I will campaign as a Liberal. And in 2008, there was a by-election. The Liberal Party accepted me. They said, oh, fantastic, you're a journalist, you're established, would love to have you.
Well-spoken, strong camera presence.
That's right, exactly. So you would love to have you represent us. So that one decision for me within 24 hours to say yes, within a week later, there was an election. There was a by-election.
1 week.
A week later, there was a by-election. And so, 3 weeks later, not 1 week, 3 weeks later, weeks later, there was a by-election.
How do you campaign for
3 weeks. It's 3 weeks later, there's a by-election. So it was about a weekend when I made the decision. By the time that they said, they pushed me through the whole rigmarole of being interviewed by the then leader of the opposition, Barry O'Farrell. They interviewed everything. And then once they approved, then I had 3 weeks to campaign. So I campaigned in an area that was known to be safe Labor.
Yeah.
And I caused the second biggest by-election swing in the history of a by-election since Federation.
That's
so
insane.
Cabramatta was on a 30% safe Labour Party margin. I brought it
What
down.
does that mean?
Yeah, that's right. That's what had happened. I didn't know what that meant. I did not know what that mean. I thought, what is that? What does that mean, really?
30% doesn't sound like that much.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Doesn't sound like that much. But that means it's on a 70%. It's actually 70% of the voters would vote Labor, which is very safe.
Right, okay.
They talk about 30% margin, which means 30%, then you need to swing.
Yeah.
Right? But that means 70% of the population, they vote Labor. And, but I brought it down to a 7% margin, which means that, there was a swing.
That is a huge
swing of 23% towards me. So that means it took away about 20%. So it brought from 70% down to about 50%.
Right.
Or 60% for Labor, which is 50%, which is a huge swing
you
against.
You don't see those kinds of swings in politics.
That's right. It was a huge swing. Now, not only did it shock Labor, it shocked the Liberals, because the Liberals thought, oh my God,
what have we done?
What have we done? we never expected this, because the most that they could expect it was a 1 or 2% swing, like 23.
What did you campaign on the back of? What was your kind of commitment to the people of Cabramatta?
Oh, nothing. Car park.
Car park?
I campaigned on a lack of car parking.
Which is actually a very good point to...
Because there was a lack of car parking.
Yeah.
And that's the one issue that I found that was lacking. And I campaigned on that. And yesterday we opened our second car park in Cabramatta.
Yesterday
in Cabramatta.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
That is awesome.
So, I posted on Instagram, and you see the photos of when I started it.
Yeah.
And just kind of, I gave a bit of a journey of the car park.
I'll see if I can pull up a photo for the people just to see, because this is what you campaighed off of, 10 years ago now?
That's right.
And
exactly.
Here you are producing the results.
Exactly.
That is awesome.
Things don't happen. Success.
Where should I look?
Instagram, my IG.
Yeah, this is it.
Oh, there you go. See the first one?
First one here?
Yeah, that one. See?
Okay.
So that's me campaigning. It's a bit blurry. It's an old photo.
This is 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Look at you, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Demands a car park for Cabramatta. Sign the petition.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I did.
That's awesome.
See, that's where it was. That's how it was. And then
you've got the dragons and stuff. That's
today,
so cool.
That's yesterday.
That's yesterday?
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
With the mayor and himself?
Yeah. That's other councillors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Other council members.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah. So
you must be extremely proud.
I am. And so, in the world of advocacy, in the world of wanting to get things done, you must know, and this is what I've learned from experience, is that what you focus on, and you focus on it, and you're persistent on focusing on the one major project, it will happen. Right? So, but it's about campaigning to get the results.
Challenging the norm.
That's right, challenging. Yeah. So anyway, so when I caused that swing in October 2008, the whole world in that area was shocked. Labor hated me. Liberals sort of did. They still hate me to this day.
That's when the trolls started.
They hated me to this day.
Yeah.
And then I got offered to work with the leader of the opposition, Barry O'Farrell, in 2000 after the by-election. So then I have to decide to quit my full-time job at the ABC to walk down a path that I knew nothing about, which is politics, and work in a political environment that I've never been exposed to. Ever. So I thought, oh my God, can I do this?
Starting a brand new network of people.
Exciting and scary. It was hand in hand, both fear and excitement. Because I had to learn a lot. It was a huge learning curve for me to leave a world that I knew and I've built up for 18 years to a world that I had no experience, no knowledge, but I went in anyway. And then I ran again So while I worked with with Barry, I then campaigned in 2011. Although I did not win the seat of Cabramatta, it swung further. So I missed out by 800 votes.
Wow.
To win. So the seat came down to 1.5%. And the Liberal, Barry became the Premier of New South Wales in a landslide, election. So yeah, I'd say the rest is history because it's a long story to tell you.
Yeah.
But so Barry became Premier. I then campaigned to then get elected onto council in 2012, a year later. So I got into council in 2012, continue my push to get the car park done. And we built the first car park.
Back in 2011, was it when you caused that massive swing?
Yeah. I did not get elected into parliament.
Right.
But then the following year when I campaigned, I got elected to council.
Okay.
Yeah. So council is the third tier of government.
Yeah. And so once you kind of got your seat into council, with all due respect to the work that you have done, why does it take a period of, in this case, 10 years for something like a car park to be established? Because I think that's one of the frustrations a lot of people have with council. And
that's how it works.
Yeah.
That's the process. From an idea, it takes, for example, I wanted to set up a business hub for our area.
Yeah.
So I planted that idea 4 years ago in the head of the mayor. And then, it's about budgeting. It's about web operations, the budget, how you're going to allocate budget to different areas in our city. And the business hub the $13 million business hub is going to be open next week, for instance.
Yeah.
But that's 4 years in the making.
Yeah.
But that's for a business hub. Whereas the car park, this is actually a second part of the car park. The first one was 4 years. So I got elected in 2012.
Yeah.
And the first car park was built in 2016. So this is
part two.
The part two of it.
Yeah.
So because it's a large area. So really in the last 2010 when I campaigned till now.
Yeah.
I've pushed.
I imagine that the construction, the bricks and mortar of the actual.
Yeah, that's quick.
That
quick.
would be nothing.
Yeah,
there's
it's quick.
huge private companies that would take that contract on board and pump it out very quickly, very efficiently.
Yeah.
That's what private companies are so good at doing.
Yeah.
Is that when they're incentivized with money, they're going to get the job done.
It's not the construction.
So what is it?
It's the process. It's public process. It's public purse money that you're using. So you got to make sure that how it's spent, how money is allocated in government. So that's why things take so long to build. From the time of a planting of the seed to when it's grow, it takes minimum 2 to 3 years before you see something go up.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just a shame that has to be the process.
It's called a Westminster system.
Oh, what Minister system?
It's called Westminster system, which is a political process system that we inherited from Britain, because Australia is built on a Westminster system. It's a public service.
Right.
Yeah. Don't get me to go into it. I just know that
we are, and I do want to make this point that we are very lucky that there are people like you that are willing to hit their head against the wall per se, and, push for things like car parks and Cabramatta to be built. I'm just looking at this more so from a business perspective, right? Yeah. Because my parents own a family business.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And one of our frustrations was that we had to get, when we first built that store, which is a shipping container, so it's not a conventional kind of build.
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues we had was that there was, I think there was something to do with the guttering of the shipping container, and there was a big back and forth as to whether the container actually needed guttering or not.
Yep.
And in retrospect, it's such a minor issue because it doesn't really hold much weight in the structural integrity of the actual building. We weren't putting anyone in danger or anything like that.
Yeah.
But just a small issue like that set us back maybe 8 months.
Yes, I know.
And
it's when you reach out to counsellors.
Exactly.
If you had known me then, you said, counsellor, what's going on?
Well, my mum dealt with Fairfield Council.
Yeah.
And there was just this back and work,
Yeah.
paperwork and getting
That's right.
people to sign off on things and whatnot. And it just, that was 8 months in which a family-run business, which wanted to provide value to the people of Fairfield, couldn't remain open.
Absolutely, I know.
You know, and I guess from maybe purely from a business capitalistic perspective, it's frustrating to see that that's kind of the process that we do have to go through. And it's not to say that council work isn't important or that, you know, what you guys do isn't significant, because that's not the case I'm making at all. I think, like I said before, we need people in council campaigning for the community.
Yep.
You know,
That's right. Yep.
It's just, I guess, maybe it's just the system we have in place.
It's the system we have in place. And so what you do is that it's often, and a lot of people don't know this, is that they reach out to a counsellor that they know to assist and facilitate for them.
Yeah.
Because once the counsellor is involved, you know, the counsellor can ask questions to staff, you know, and then staff will actually act more quickly.
Yeah.
For some reason, you know, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think, you know, again, it's very important, the line of work that people like that are in, because that's what signifies change, you know. It's people like you that take a predominantly liberal area into
Labor area. Predominantly Labor area
into a more nuanced, balanced
that's right.
perspective.
Yes, I want to turn this seat. I still have, you know, when I ran there as a Liberal, a lot of people said to me, you're mad because you can never turn that seat. But after 10 years, I am turning that seat around.
Yeah.
It's, you know, Fairfield Council is now it's an independent mayor, independent councillor, and I think people will be shifting their votes in terms of we have educated them that when you go to the ballot box, you don't just tick.
Yeah.
Because, oh, look, this is what we've been doing for the last 2 decades. You're going to think, okay, who actually has been working? Who actually have been doing the things for the community. So people are now actually seeing that more.
Yeah.
And social media has made it easy.
Of course.
You know, in the past, how are you going to know who's doing what? Because you don't have no access to information.
And not only that, if there's only one mainstream source of information that's saying, you know, Minister X or campaigner Y is doing a great job, that's just the narrative you're fed.
That's right. Exactly.
So I think the diversification of media streams is important.
Absolutely.
As well.
Yep.
What are your political ambitions moving forward?
I want to get into Parliament.
Parliament?
Yes. I'll skip at that. I don't want to say any more. Next year, after the local government election in December the 4th, I can come back and share more. But at the moment, all I can say to you is that, you know, I want to get into Parliament.
Yeah.
So if I say any more,
watch this space.
Watch this space. That's right.
Yeah. No, that'd be exciting. I'd love to see that. I think we definitely do need more people of you know, of ethnic backgrounds and more females in being represented as well. I think that's right. Incredibly important. What mechanisms do you think would be the most effective to put into play so that people like yourself are more likely to, you know, take an interest in politics?
Yeah, look, I think it's hard to get people to get interested in politics unless they really want to get interested in politics. I think I've learned that you have to be very passionate about an issue, right? And if you want to get things done, but you have to also be realistic that to get a car park built doesn't happen overnight. It's not
a 6-month process.
No, it's not a 6-month process. Therefore you have to be patient and persevere through the process, because that is something that you need to have if you're interested in politics. I would love to see more diverse faces, young men and women in politics. So in this upcoming council election, I'm bringing a young person with me onto my ticket from Cabramatta.
Are you allowed to say who that person is?
Yeah, Kevin Lamb. So he's on my ticket as number 2, and I hope that he'll get elected this time. And then, you know, I'm hoping that this election only is going to be, it's normally a 4-year term.
Yep.
But because the election has been postponed till this year, that means it's a 3-year term, because the election was supposed to be in 2020, but it's happening in 2021. So therefore, you've got a 3-year term instead of a 4-year term. So I'm hoping that the next term I will have more people that I can nurture and encourage to get involved in local politics.
Right. So from your perspective, I guess it does become like an individual
choice, responsibility. And choice, yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I often look out for the people that I want to nurture is that there's no, of course you all have ego, but there's no ego in a sense that egomaniac is not something all about me. It's about what is it that I can give back to the community.
Yep.
And also how patient the person is.
Yep.
And how resilient that person is in terms of, if they were to say, if you're told to go and make coffee, that you don't going to say, oh, is that my role? Shouldn't I be able to?
I know a lot of people.
So do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to actually roll up your sleeves. And so Kevin worked with me in my 2019 campaign. He went out there and he put up posters and all of that stuff. So all the little things that people who want to get into politics might think, oh, do I have to do that? Yeah. I say yes. Unfortunately, you have to. I started
that diligence and that grit.
That's right. So I think finding the right personality for politics, for my politics anyway, is challenging because the good people are mainly either in business or doing something else.
Of course.
They're not in politics.
If you're looking for someone that's going to be diligent and patient and put the work in and oversee long-term goals, then of course they're going to be drawn to an industry or a field where there's capital return.
Yeah, on that exactly. Exactly. Right? In politics, there's no capital return.
Unfortunately not. I mean, there's a nice pension at the end of it if you make it high enough.
No, not even that. That's
really?
Not even that. That's changed. Yeah, so that has also changed. So you have to now be elected to be in Parliament, I think, for 2 to 3 terms. Before you have the lifelong pension. It has changed.
Right.
So politics is no longer where people, it's not about the money. Yes, you'll get paid, but it's not about the money. I mean, I'm on council. I get $30,000 a year.
Wow.
That's all I get to live. So most councillors actually either have a business or they work full time. But for me, I worked hard, like I have built my assets, so therefore I don't have to work full time.
Yeah.
I'm on a couple of boards, which gives me a smaller income revenue, which brings me up to about $40,000 a year. But that's enough for me to live off.
You've been forced to be resourceful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've got my, Dawn Media production on the side, which is not generating huge revenue for me to pocket anything.
Yeah.
But it's a business that it's serving people, and I know that in the long run it'll build up to generate revenue that will pay me when I'm out of politics.
Do you think and I'm going to maybe put my tinfoil hat on a little bit here, but do you think that because there's a certain subset of politicians, maybe more so on the council level, that aren't being compensated accordingly, do you think that opens up the opportunity for a lot more members to be compromised?
Oh, look, I think that there is that perception, and I think there is that also, not just perception, but there has been cases whereby councillors who get onto council, because council is where you get to have an insight into a lot of things that are happening in the area, right? In terms of development, in terms of businesses.
Which land is going to be more valuable
exactly.
in 10 years' time.
So therefore, a lot of, not a lot, but I'd say quite a few people who get onto council with the purpose of making money. Absolutely. I can't deny that. And obviously there's been quite a few in front of, been charged with corrupt conduct in ICAC, and I think there's
the Gladys one obviously is not in council.
That's a state government,
State government, that's the one that's really taken the limelight, right?
Yeah. So that one, Daryl Maguire, the MP in Wagga Wagga, is going to be fronting up in ICAC, I think next
week, I believe.
18th of October.
Yeah.
And he's accused of having, obviously doing the wrong thing. And yeah, look, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I can't comment because obviously it's an ICAC thing. But, there are a few counsellors I know through my work as a counsellor who currently also in front of ICAC for because they made money. And I think, oh my God, I can understand why. If they were driven to make money that way, why did they get onto council in the first place? But then I can see why they got into council in the first place, because that's where they can make easy money.
That insight is right there.
That's
valuable information. It's easy to sell.
Yeah. And so that's when I talk about personalities and people to nurture, it's people who actually wanted to do good and community oriented, right?
Yeah.
It's not driven by money. You can't be driven by money.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Well, I mean, you can, and then
you're driven by money in terms of yes, of course. You've got to ensure that you build a sustainable business, for instance, that that's going to generate revenue so that you can actually do good. That kind of driven, but not driven in terms of greed.
No, of course. And I think I don't want the conception to be that I'm against politicians making money, because I think if you are going to be good at your job and if you're going to be competent and you're going to get into your position based on merit, then you should be rewarded for that merit.
That's right.
I've got no problem with my taxpayer dollars going to politicians that are standing up for something that I believe in.
Yeah.
But there is also a mismatch and a miscommunication where sometimes it feels like there are politicians at play that don't have my best interests at heart, and I'm still funding them.
Yeah.
One of the people I've been most critical of, and I've, not been hesitant to share my beliefs on, is Gladys Berejiklian. Whether you agree with her policies or not, it's very... just from an optics perspective, I find it very uncomfortable to be told that we're all suffering, we're all locked down together, and we're all going to get through this together, from a lady that's making, millions of dollars a year on state-funded wages,
Well, look, as MPs only get, only is not the right word. MPs get a few $100,000 a year. That's all they get. There's
a few $100,000 a year. That's a few $100,000 a year.
Yes, it is. It is. But if you think about the responsibility to manage the state, it's a huge thing, right? It's a huge responsibility to manage the state of New South Wales with about. Sydney alone is 5 million people. Southwestern Sydney is about 2 million. That's 7 million. What's the population of Sydney, New South Wales?
I think we're closer to 3 million, maybe.
I think more than that.
Let's find out.
We're more than that. I'm marking of my time. I've got council meeting. Yeah, population New South Wales. Yeah, put it in.
Yeah, I don't want to be respectful of your time. 5 minutes.
Yeah,
that's
fine. 5-10 minutes. Yeah.
8 million.
There you go. Yeah. So that's 5 million Sydney, 2 million in southwest Western Sydney, and then a million probably around the regional. So I think that I think maybe it's not wise for us to go into about the remuneration, but they're not in the millions. They don't get millions. That's all I can say. I think that.
My point isn't necessarily to say that politicians shouldn't be getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I just think if the state of New South Wales in some businesses has dropped as high as 70% in revenue, where a lot of businesses are going bankrupt on the decisions made by those very politicians, then shouldn't some kind of mechanism being played there.
Yeah, look.
Because they're not incentivized to get us out of lockdown. They're not incentivized. They're not feeling the pinch like the people are.
True. I agree with you with that, because public servants, as they call, MPs are public servants. They're part of the bureaucracy. And there's also the public service as well, are funded by public taxes. So people like us, business owners, individuals, workers, pay for the taxes that are sustaining those MPs and the people around them. So yes, you're right. They don't have to go to work to run a business, to open a business. There's none of that, nothing at stake for them. Other than the stake of them being voted in or voted out. Yeah, right? Exactly. So that's the only thing that's at stake for them. But we have got a Westminster political system. So therefore, and we live in I call it a guided democracy, which means we have to go to the poll and vote, unfortunately, and we have to vote for the people. And when we vote for somebody, we know that the MP elected will get paid, and they get paid by taxpayers' money. And that's why I think educating people about who they vote for locally is very important, because you need to make sure that they work for the taxpayer, for the tax money that you pay them. Yep. Right? You can't have somebody who does not advocate for your community, who does not fight for anything for your community, who does not out there to stand up for the community. And you have politicians who will come out and stand up. Sure, they say a few words, but what actions have they actually done? What actions, what have they implemented? What have they brought? What resources have they done for the community? That's where you can judge as an individual and as a voter. So voters have to be so vigilant. Yep. In terms of when it comes to vote. Absolutely. Right? For their councillor, for their state member, for the federal member.
And I think it's very easy now for politicians to kind of get behind, topical trends that are, in vogue this season. So obviously right now, any politician that kind of has the backing of pronoun usage or, increased, recognition of the LGBTQ plus alphabet plus, there we go. That community is obviously just going to have a lot more social recognition. Yeah. But it's more than just that. It's more than just saying a couple buzzwords that's going to look nice. And it's what actions have you actually put forward?
Absolutely.
What have you done for the people of Cabramatta in this case?
That's right. I think it's anywhere, Liverpool, Cabramatta, Fairfield. You have to look at the people that you go to the poll and vote for. And my hope is that voters really, when often people say, I'm going to go to vote because I don't want to get fined. Yeah. That's not how.
Guilty.
I know. Yeah. And that's not how. I was guilty of that too until I got involved in politics and I realized, hang on, I had that mindset? Yeah. Because my vote matters. And that if I make an informed choice on who I should vote for, sure, it won't happen overnight that it'll change. And you might feel, oh my God, that was, I did that 4 years ago, it didn't change. But unfortunately, just like the car park, it took years to get the result. So by having that kind of effect of that, of influencing people to vote in a very informed manner, is when you will see change. You only see change if the person that's supposed to represent you changes. If they don't change and they're the same person that have represented that area for 20 years and have not done fuck all, then you won't get anything.
I think that is a very strong and powerful note to leave this conversation on. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. You have an amazing story.
Thanks, Luca.
Leave the floor with you. Let people know where to find you. Where can they activate?
Look, I am on Instagram a lot. So my Instagram handle is Daile, as in my name, DAI. LE_inspo. Actually, a friend of mine came up with that name for me because she goes, oh my God, it's so inspirational.
Those beautiful.
Yeah, daily inspo. You know, daily is a bit. That's why we call them daily. I'm thinking those daily, but it doesn't matter. It's daily inspo is my Instagram handle. Obviously, I'm on also. If people are in the Fairfield local government area, they can get me. Obviously on the Fairfield City Council website or on my councillor Facebook page. Both my councillor page and my Instagram, I'm verified there. And if people are professional, they can get me on LinkedIn as well. I'm on LinkedIn. And I'm on Twitter, but I'm also on TikTok.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. So I've done a few dances on TikTok. So I love TikTok. So
tango dances.
Yeah, not tango. I did the some of the TikTok trends sort of dance. So I'm on TikTok, Twitter. I'm there. So yeah. So those are the 5 platforms.
You're everywhere.
Yeah. So people can reach out to me. I'm, as you know, I'm a very approachable, and And if people are interested in politics, I'd love to know them. I'd love to get them involved in my upcoming election campaign. The campaign is on the 4th of December.
Okay.
And so we'll be starting campaigning probably about mid-November. And if people want to have an experience of what it feels like to be part of a campaign, they can come and join my campaign team.
Beautiful. Dai, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Luca. Thank you.